Again, once again, just to say this is our third day of our Zoom meeting, and we are so glad that everybody has taken their time to be joining this meeting, because you know for sure what our mission is. Our mission is basically or simply to contribute towards the Masitise development, and we know together we can do it, we can make it, and thus we spare our time for every meeting to come together. For sure, everything can be a success. And having to say this, I've been chosen to be leading the meeting for today again. So I would just like to call Nadeharen to give us a prayer, please. Nadeharen, the floor is yours, please. Can you just come up with a prayer, please? Thank you.
Thank you for everyone for being here. And I want to take this moment to pray the Lord, and then for having given us this opportunity to be together, to be here and talking about the development of Masitise and its surroundings. And we want to thank the Lord for keeping us safe and in this pandemic period. And I want to thank the Lord for bringing all of us together, and seeing Mr. McDonald and seeing him here after a long while, it gives us some energy and inspiration. So thank the Lord for giving us everything that we can do for the people in Masitise and people of Lesotho, for their livelihood. And we thank the Lord for all the opportunities that we are getting in this uncertain pandemic time. And we pray, and we pray for everyone's life and their families, their children, and their health. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Nadeharen, for touching up so important points when giving the prayer to the Lord. And of course, like we have always been saying, every time when we start our prayer, in fact, our meeting with inviting the Lord, then we are hoping for, a smooth run, a smooth meeting, and a success at the end of the day. And then I would just want to welcome everyone, of course, into this platform, and everyone who is maybe for some reason or the other did not manage to get to this meeting. You are still welcome. You are still part of us. And next time, hopefully, maybe when you are free, you can just spare your time to join. So at this point, can I just say, I will just give you an intro, maybe the brief of what we have been discussing in the background to prepare for this meeting. And in preparation for this meeting, we actually agreed to identify some key members, or maybe some key people whom we thought if we can just get in contact with them into our developing Masitise, then they can be of major help. And to start with, I actually contacted Ndade McDonald. As you know, Ndade McDonald has been with us all the time during the meetings. This is the third meeting he's with us here. And then Ndade McDonald, when I was contacting him, it was just in regard to getting in touch with some key members of Masitise, maybe say a head teacher or maybe the current staff. And of course, Ndade McDonald emailed two of them. I think he actually got in contact with one of the teachers who's currently at Masitise right now, and we discussed what the discussion was through the email. Anyway, he told me that the contact with the member of Masitise was through the email, and so there was a lot of intensive discussion that he had with that person, or maybe the teacher at Masitise. And I think the other thing that Ndade McDonald was wanting to contact, or maybe the key target, was Ndade Metsoalle, of which I think he didn't manage to contact. But anyway, going down our agenda, Ndade McDonald will have the time to actually give us the brief of what the discussion was all about, or what he has managed to get, So going forward, I managed to get in contact with Ndade Metsoalle. As you recall, I think what we discussed last meeting was to actually get to talk to one of the contractors whom we think can just execute the job, or maybe the refurbishment job at Masitise. And the lady, we had a very long, lovely, happy conversation with him. He told me so many things, As you know, the lady was one of the key member of the maintenance during that time when the Demagdonald was still there. So it's unfortunate that the Hamedi is not in the meeting here. I would want him to be in the meeting, but well, he didn't manage to come. And I will just summarize the key points that the Hamedi actually told me when he was still at Masitise at the maintenance and his experiences there. But before I go there, I would just say what was the important key or the important point of contacting Mr. Mohammed was just to make him aware that the panel in here, I have agreed to actually nominate him to be one of our key contractor who will be executing the development at Masitise. And the Mohammed was, without any doubt, very thankful for that. And he's actually looking forward to be doing that. So he's actually waiting for the go ahead, which will get that from the head teacher. I'll just give you the brief on that. So the Mohammed's account is on maintenance anyway. What he mentioned was during the time when he was still working with the McDonald, because he has done so much with the McDonald, and so much things in regard to maintenance, building maintenance was successful, and they were being kept in a very good state. And he said that the success story through that or behind that was that the relationship with him in the McDonald was just, unbelievable. Something that, he's even missing even now, because what he mentioned was every quarter, he will be sitting down with the McDonald, to allocate the quarterly budget for the maintenance. And they would have a meeting every Friday with the McDonald. I think he's here, he's listening, maybe he'll correct me or maybe make amendments on what maybe is not right. But the thing is, everything I'm saying is what the McDonald, the Mohammed told me. So he said in every Friday, meaning every week on Friday, they'll be having a meeting with the McDonald to discuss maybe what he has managed to achieve in regard to maintenance, building maintenance, everything, in general. And every month, the McDonald will be calling the Mohammed to have another meeting again to say, okay, Mohammed Magwai, the budget was allocated to you for the quarter. What have you achieved? What did you buy? What do you think you need to support from me? So it's clear that, okay, the communication with the McDonald and the Mohammed during the time when he was there was actually very, very, very good one. And it helped Masitise to be in the state it used to be in regard to maintenance-wise, because the organization as big as Masitise, it needs to have a proper management in regard to maintenance, and that's why they managed to succeed because of the collaboration. They are, working together, teamwork was very good. So there's a lot that he talked, of course, but which I cannot touch for now because of time and all that. But the key things is about him being available to start the work. So after that, what was the main assignment for me and the other group that I work with, the panel that I work with, was to contact Ndade Motsai, who is the head teacher at Masitise. Of course, I did that about some weeks ago after our first meeting. I emailed Ndade Motsai just to request, to make a formal request for him to give us the approval for the work to be done there. In fact, I started first to actually tell him, okay, there is this groups who are working together to kind of have some funds collected to help Masitise. That was mentioned on the email. And with that, in regard to helping, we actually working or maybe requesting you to give us the go ahead or maybe the approval, the formal approval for the contractors to come over to Masitise, maybe to get maybe with the quotations and all that before the work can be done. But as I'm talking, I think he responded immediately. I think 2 days after he responded to say, okay, Jordan, thank you for your email. I will consider this and then I'll come back to you. Of course, he hasn't come back to me at the moment. I made a follow-up email, I think 3 days ago. 3 or 4 days ago, I made a follow-up email, which I think for some reason he didn't manage to get back to me. And I actually phoned him afterwards. I think 2 days ago, I phoned him. I told him that and the decision about that. Okay, I'll be phoning him now. And then I phoned him on his two mobile numbers, which I didn't get the response from. Anyway, that's behind, or maybe that's out of our control. All we know is maybe in the demos I might have some. He didn't have time to actually respond. We are still waiting for his response, So going forward, I think we'll have to do it the other way, maybe contact the school board. We didn't manage to get that because we're still hoping the demo will get back to me before the meeting, but then we didn't have time to contact the school board. So this is all I have to say in regard to all this assignment that we had for this meeting. And in this regard, can I just say, call Tade Haren to give us his remarks and say a bit about how we can help to enhance the talent at Masitise, especially to the former Masitise students. We are old right now. Everybody has been at Masitise, and we are out with our different spheres of life. And some of the former students that there at Masitise, they have some special talents which can be, recognized in somehow. So I would want him to touch up in that regard and maybe say a bit on how he thinks he can contribute, or maybe we can contribute as a whole in here towards the community development. When I talk about community development, I talk about community development of Masitise to start with, and then Lesotho as a whole, because Masitise was not only the school for the local students from Masitise. It was a school at Masitise at Kuting, but everyone in the country was welcome to attend that school. That means then any development which is meant to be for Masitise, it has to maybe benefit everyone who have been at Masitise. It doesn't matter where you are coming from in terms of district-wise. So Darren, the platform is yours. Can you just say more on this, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Tsotang, and thank you for everyone. And I really, every time when I think of my life in Lesotho and in Kuting especially, and I always think how fortunate I am to have gone through Lesotho life for the big chunk of my life, and 10 years plus. And that is and I feel privileged to have been in Lesotho and at Masitise, and I'm sure Mr. McDonald is here. And he has spent in Lesotho for more than, I think, if not 20 years, and he has been there for so long. And somehow I fixed myself in Lesotho, no matter wherever I am in the world, and my mind and heart is somehow for reason beyond my thinking that I'm still living in Masitise, living in Lesotho, with all those families and people in Lesotho, especially the surroundings of Masitise. To that extent, that I connected myself with the life in Lesotho, and I wish I had wings. I wish I had wings to fly. I would have been here in Masitise right there. I really miss that place. And when I look at people like Ntate Relebule Kosi and Sidizo and Maseshu and Tsotang and here Larato, she has joined us here. And all these are successful stories. And I really want to see people progressing in life. And, you won't know how happy and how delighted I am to see that they relate Kosi here, under the title of medical doctor. 100%. That makes me, I don't know how I can describe, I like what to describe the way I feel happy about Relebule in the state of, the hospital doctor, and thinking about his life with me, walking from his house, and I know many times he walks to my house. He walked to my house in the past, and socializing and talking about girls, and we were bachelors, talking about girls and so many other things. And these are the good memories which I'm still keeping within myself. I think I will die with the memory of Lesotho and Masitise. And having said that, what we are doing here is as Masitise, former Masitise teachers and students, and I can't always, every time when I talk about Masitise, I can simply forget or simply pass without talking about Mr. McDonald. And he is the icon of Masitise. He is the icon of Kuting. He's the icon of Lesotho. and living icon. He's a living legend of Masitise High School, and I mean, no one should deny, or no one should forget the fact that Mr. McDonald, together with all the staffs and students, made our life better at Masitise. And Mr. McDonald, I want to take this time and at this moment to really, really thank you, and we will be thanking you forever and ever, and especially people from Lesotho and Kuching and South Africa, wherever Basotho live. And we also, my mission, nowadays what I'm doing here in United States is just to develop the community. Mainly I'm paying attention to the Sri Lankan community who live around here, but that doesn't stop with Sri Lankan. I reach out to, especially my mission is next, is to reach out to Basutos and people who live right there in the heartland of homeland of Basuto land. And like recently, I contacted Sibuti Lebasa, and he is one of the growing musician artists. He's coming up, and unfortunately, the resources, financial resources, are lacking there. And it's not Sibuti alone. People like Sibuti are growing in Lesotho, and we have the mandate. And I feel that I have the mandate to help people in Lesotho to grow up in wherever they are. They are doing great in their lives, and well, financially, definitely as usual, financially there is a little back. They're pulling back. So I usually talk to Sota that we have to start diverting our mission to help people in the city where and when possible. That is one of my really and wish list, and that's one of the duty that I have in my wish list, to reach out to people one by one at a time, to help out people. So hence the reason why I suggested in that Kosi that we need to celebrate our success. We have a duty to show other people that we are with you, we are with them psychologically, mentally, and that is what we have to do at this time of the year. We don't know how our life is going to be tomorrow, because when people live today and tomorrow they are not there. And this pandemic era that we live, we need to take every single moment to help other people.
We're beginning to talk about actual practical actions we can take to develop Masitise.
Mm-hmm.
Let me mention Mokamaledi first, because you brought him up, Sultan.
That's true, yeah.
Let me say, I know that the government has not been kind to him, because the government has not paid him for more than 2 years for work that he has completed for them. And every time he goes to the principal secretary, even with a court order, the PS just says there's no money. So the government is in that position. It seems to me that Mokamaledi is unlikely to have money to do the work at Masitise that we would want him to do, unless we could pay him cash in advance. He wouldn't have the money to buy building materials. Now, how much have we actually raised? Who is the treasurer? Was it you, Sadiq Solabasa?
Yes, the day it's the Solabasa. He's going to be coming after you. Actually, you are
okay.
Just taking this
right
time.
Okay, so let's move on. He can come later.
Yes,
But the question of how much we have raised, is it going to be enough to buy building materials? Now, the other thing is, how has the school got into the mess in which it is? And should we say, I got some information from somebody. She asked me to keep this confidential, not to reveal his or her name to this conference. You may be able to guess who it is. but I receive lots of allegations about alleged financial mismanagement. For example, I learned that the school's accounts have never been audited. I have learned that the school board knows nothing about the school management. The school board is never shown the budget. None of them are trained in running of a school. They don't have the educational qualifications. So we have a school board who does not understand accounts, cannot query anything. I think, Sotang, you raised the question about getting in touch with the school board. My information is that that would be pretty well useless. I think there is only one person in Lesotho who has the authority to investigate the finances and to call a meeting of the teachers and demand that they make friends with each other and cooperate in the running of the school. That person is the Education Secretary in Marinja. I don't see anyone else in Lesotho who could do that. If he was still with us, the late Tadito Kitledi could have done it. But as I said, he's no longer with us. Apart from him, the Education Secretary in Marinja, I think, is the only person. Now, I don't know his name. I don't know his email address. Possibly one of you will be able to fill that one in, but I think that is the best hope for sorting this problem out in practice. So I think that's my contribution.
Thank you so much, Dr. McDonald. I'm looking at a point. Thank you so much for the guidance as well, and to actually touch on the points.
Let me just add one thing.
Okay.
You mentioned that I'd had email conversations with Mrs. Mantutli. I had mistakenly thought she was the deputy. She is not. But what she told me made me realize that I am not trusted by either side. I thought I was making every effort to be neutral in my administration of the school, but I am seen by one faction of the staff to be entirely taking advice from Mr. Monoring and all the rest of them. I would like to, should we say, distance myself from openly taking one side or the other. I could email Mr. Monoring perfectly well. I have his email address. I've not done so because that would mean to the staff on the other side that I'm friends with him. So I am trying to tread a very neutral path, and to the extent of perhaps not emailing people directly.
Now, Mr. McDonald, my opinion is that I don't know whether you have to be worried about what other people think for the good deed that you are doing, and I don't find the reason why you should not go on with doing the good thing and the right thing, and which I know not you can't satisfy everybody, but you are doing a great thing, the good thing, the right thing. So I would encourage you to do in your power whatever you have to do to help Mr. Monara.
Let me put it this way. If I am seen to instigate a financial investigation of Mr. Monoring's activities and administration, do you think he would still be my friend? If I try to bridge the gap between the staff and say, come and be friends, neither side will trust me if they think I'm too much associated with the other side. These are my problems. So I've got to tread a little lightly here. This is why I suggested the Education Secretary in Mauritius. Because if he steps in, it's nothing to do with me. He has an official purpose, an official reason. Let me mention to you in passing, it must have been 2018, I think, I met the Chief Education Officer Secondary, Metsoalle. And she called me to her office and said, why is it, Mr. MacDonald, that both the schools you have been in charge of are now going academically down the drain? So the Ministry of Education has noticed what's happening at Masitise. But they're not really in a position to step in and do something about it. I think it has to be done at rather lower level, like the Chief Education Secretary in Mauritius. And let me tell you also, my other school, Masitise 2, is equally going down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, the answer I gave Metsoalle was that it's 11 years since I was in charge of Masitise, so I can't really give any comment. Anything I say would be rumor and speculation. As for Masitise 2, I laid the blame squarely on the government because they had refused to appoint a substantive headmaster when the board had asked them to.
Okay. Mr. MacDonald, that's so helpful. As always, your suggestions and your contributions are so much valued, very, very valuable. You know, Mr. MacDonald, in discussion with Mr. Mohammed, yes, I've just summarized some key points, but there is two specific points here which I would want you to clarify. You know, that is in regard to when you were doing the handover to the current head teacher. I'm sure the school was still running with a very successful budget on the account, you know, and there was this money. You know, this is not, it's not like interrogation or something, but it's because we are wanting to help Masitise and we need to know the facts. There was this money which you left, I heard you left at Bloemfontein account, which was a lot of money. And we even said, or maybe suggested that that money should not be touched for any reasons, you know, it was maybe used for some other, or maybe to guard the school going forward. But can you just say anything about that one? Because
yes, all right.
To know about this year.
At the end of my time here, the school was desperately in need of more classrooms. Mm-hmm. I remember taking the minister and the principal secretary and showing them the Form E classroom, which was that shed at the back of the assembly hall that was originally the builder's shed. You know the one. Mm-hmm. And I opened the door and it opened outwards. And I commented, it's a good thing the door opens outwards because there are so many desks crammed in, the door wouldn't be able to open inwards. I took the minister and the PS round that, and I took them to the Form D and E classrooms, which were the same. The doors opened outwards. I commented on the fact that the assembly hall was built when the school had about 250 students. Now it was about 950. There was standing room only. I actually said to the students that I don't mind asking the students to stand because they're a quarter of my age. Only the minister and the PS and myself were sitting on the stage. So I was campaigning to get the government to build more classrooms. And indeed, the PS and the minister in my presence conferred and said, yes, that shouldn't be a problem. It never happened. So I think that money I had collected in Bloemfontein, Mr. Monterey used to build more classrooms. because very soon after I left, he built, if I remember right, 3 more classroom blocks. There was one between Form A and Form C. There was a new classroom in the Form B block, and there was a new classroom in Form D block.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where that money went, or most of it.
Okay. Thank you so much for clarifying that. And of course, we are not getting into the management affairs here, but we just have to know, the grounds. If you are wanting to help Masitise, we still have to know at some point how maybe the budget has been utilized, so that when we chip in or maybe step into this big mission, we should be familiar of how we should conduct ourselves in regard to who we should meet and who should not meet, and how our money should be handled. And that's absolutely fine for that. And still leave us with some questions anyway, which is not the point at the moment to be discussed. But thank you for that explanation. I would want to ask you one last question in regard to this. There is this this Ndate here who was called Mr. Moshe Siswani. Do you know him? Mr. Moshe Siswani. Moshe Siswani. He used to be a principal at the Lilwalen Technical Institute. So this Moshe Siswani, okay, let me get the point clear to you. This Mr. Moshe Siswani used to be a head of school unit. After leaving, I know him. He was a head teacher at Lilwalen Technical Institute. And
are we talking about the man who was he vice principal of LTI and then moved to Lilwalen?
Yeah, it could be the one, because the only
he owned a bar in Metsoalle, I remember.
Yes. That's him.
Right.
Yes, that's it.
Lebakai, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Lebakai?
Sorry?
I thought his name was Lebakai.
No, his name was Mr. Moshe Siswani. Moshe Siswani. I know he owned the pub in the restaurant. So my point in mentioning him is that Mr. Moshe Siswani, after leaving the Lilwalen Technical Institute, he became a head of school unit. So I heard, he became a head of school unit, and he was very, very, very much in touch with Mr. Mohamed. They had a lot in common while Mr. Mohamed was still a head of maintenance in Masitise. And there was a point when Mr. Siswani, being head of the school units, asked Mohamed, Mr. Makwai, to ask for the financial support, from the government. This thing was governed by the government or something, about private company, but something, private sector or something. But then that head of that school unit was the demonstration. The demonstration was the head of that, and he was saying to Mohammed, that Mr. Makwai, that he can get a financial support for maintenance at school. So unfortunately, that was a time when we already left, and Mr. Mohammed was still at Masitise, but that couldn't go ahead because there was this inconsistency in communication between him and the head teacher, who is the current head teacher right now. But if maybe everything was kind of transparent and smooth, I think the maintenance of Masitise School could have got the financial support through the advice of Mr. Moshe, but it never happened. So that's why I was asking if maybe that man, that Mr. Moshe, and maybe
I do know him, but I've totally lost touch with him. I didn't know he worked for the school unit. And how old is your information? Is he still working for the school unit?
As far as I know, yes. As far as I know, yes, because this information is the one that I just gathered recently. Just
do you know his email?
Not, to be honest, no, I don't know anything about his contacts and all that. Yeah, I don't know, but I can request that and get them to you if you want them.
Yes, well, I mean, if you could find out, it might be helpful.
Right.
So Dang, I have a request here, and I know that the point that you're talking with Mr. McDonald discussing, I think we are going a little deeper into that. And today's meeting, and I know we started, and again, I need to apologize for starting late this meeting. I would suggest, Sotang, to invite, to welcome the newcomers here. I think Monaheng is here, and Mr. Monaheng and Lerato is here. And I would suggest that to hear from them, their opinions, and they're going into the deeper detail, I think we should do it behind in the background, right? Digging deeper into all those things. I'm sure you'll be able to have contact with Mr. McDonald and getting a little deeper into these matters. But right now, I would humbly ask you to welcome these two new people here, Mr. Monai and I know that Kosi is a busy man. He's here. We need to hear from him too. So I don't know. You will do a little change in your program and go ahead. Then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You know, when we are into news, sometimes you kind of get triggered to actually hit the nail. You know. Anyway,
Yeah.
Thank you for that guidance and maybe the kind of a piece of advice. But before going to that and the Dehar and introducing some members in here, can I quickly ask the Metsoalle so just to give us the update on the members' contribution and then how much maybe the amount is at the moment? You know, just a brief in the Metsoalle to just give us an update on the contribution, members' contribution. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thanks a lot, Mr. Sousa. Yeah, no, it is very fulfilling to be part of this great initiative with great personalities. Up to so far, we have managed to accumulate about 51,000, which is very little compared to the work at hand. And 50,000 was our first target. And just after reaching 50, there was a suggestion again from the members that we should extend that target to 100. And that 100 as well will still not be enough to cover all the damages that are on campus. And we suggested that maybe we should not wait up until we get to 100,000, but we can start with other activities. And those activities will be broken into phases, whereby maybe phase one will be the replacement of the broken doors, windows, plastering, basically on the residences. And then maybe the phase two would be the classrooms and the dining hall. And the phase three maybe being the proper fencing of the campus, and then maybe the access roads. Because now the surface water has caused a lot of the damage, uncontrolled channels all over. Then the cheaper option maybe was to use maybe the paving blocks. So we could see that 100,000 will still be very, very, very little to cover all those things. And we have another unit, I think, of the alumni 2000. There will be, while we focusing on the infrastructure, they will be working parallel with us, more on the academic the performances, like award giving to the best performing students and teachers, study programs, the introduction of tutors, and some of those things will need some cash for them to function. And having said that, it shows that we still need more funds to be successful in our approach. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Metsoalle, for putting everything clearly and so much precise. And we thank you so much. We understand, we all know, we can see there's been some post by Masitise, I think, who's our financial controller in the Metsoalle. Has been both of them have been posting into our groups to just for members to see how much maybe the accumulation of the funds are at the moment. We want to something.
Yeah, no, and again, I will also want to emphasize on what Mr. McDonald said about the finances. And I think, auditor's report is one of the important aspects that we need to be sure about, so as to know how we can fit into the whole program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that contribution once again. Yeah, thank you.
Quickly to add on to what Sidiso said, I have few ideas, Sotang and others, of how to generate money for this moving forward, instead of just waiting for members or former students to contribute. We should also walk beyond asking money from people. We should also go for, I don't know, we can discuss it later, look like opening a GoFund page or Masitise Development GoFund page or similar initiations like that, and then, or organizing some event and create more fund in South Africa and Lesotho. We will talk about it a little later, and I want to have that discussion with you maybe later. You go ahead with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darren, for stepping up that point again. And for at this time, I think you've just went beyond our time anyway. Can we just please ask Mel Lerato Mokhedi? I think she's still here. I can see her. Mel Lerato Mokhedi, can you just come forward, please, and just introduce yourself and say a little bit of a contribution to what's your thoughts about this move that you are actually onto right now? Because I think it's your first meeting to be with us, but I know you're in the groups. You are in the groups. You can see what is being said into the groups and all that. Please come forward, Melerato, and just introduce yourself so that we can know you. And then remember you, of course, like the Darato said, he forgot you. Yeah, thank you. The platform is yours, Melerato Mokhedi.
Hi everyone, I'm happy to be part of. I don't know how Darren doesn't remember me because I used to be one of the naughtiest at school. Even though as I grew older, I got to be shy. I don't know why. I got to be very shy, and yeah. But because I did my part in Masitise, so I was very naughty. So thank you very much, and I really love the initiative that we are taking as Masitise ex-students and teachers. I really want to be part of this in every way possible where I can. I saw the residents, where our children stay. It's horrible. I don't know how a parent can allow their children to stay there. So I really want to be part of that to make sure that.
Melerato, you cut.
Well, that is a connection issue.
Yeah.
Oh,
Melerato, hello.
Oh, that is a connect.
Stay in a good moment.
Oh, that she's back. She's back now. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You cut a bit. You cut. Yeah.
Oh, am I back? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just
so, like I said, I would really want to be part of this to help where I can, where I possibly can.
Hello, Melerato.
Just wait, and it's a connection issue.
That's fine. Okay.
It's beyond her control, right? She can't do it.
No, let me give me a second. Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Lara.
Yeah. So to Darren, I would really want to help as much as I can, where possible. So the decisions can be made. We will help. Thank you very much for taking this initiative to help our children there.
Thank you so much.
But before Sotang starts, and I really apologize that it's not that I don't now when I pin you close by, now I remember you. You have been giving me trouble in the school. And you are one of the brightest students too. I know that. So and thank you. And I'm so happy and glad to meet you, Lerato. Such a beautiful girl like you. And you're only one among so many here. Thank you for your presence today. Okay, and great. And
it's a pleasure, Darren.
I love your hairstyle. Your hairstyle is beautiful.
Thank you, Kentley. For your contribution and taking part to this panel here. And I can quickly now call some few remarks on the members who are here.
Dade Kosi has raised hand. Yeah.
Yes, the Kosi is here. Please, the Kosi, can you just maybe come forward, because you know where we have started and where we are right now, maybe what your contribution could be at this time in this point in time. Thank you. That the platform is here.
Thank you, Narendra.
Thank you.
I think that McDonald raised an issue earlier about when we are having these meetings, that we should try to stick to the course and the agenda of the meeting, and try to stick to the points that are going to be discussed on this particular day, because we really are spending a lot of time just going around and not really getting to the points that should be discussed. I would like to digress a bit from what has been discussed all along during today's meeting, I know we are looking at the physical structure of Masitise High School as to how to refurbish the buildings and the surroundings there. I have a bit of a concern for myself about the products of the school, the performance of the students. And I happened to meet one of the teachers, I think 2 weeks back, and asked them, what's going on? What's happening? Why are students not performing well? I don't know if Ndate MacDonald will help me on this one, but it appears as if the whole new curriculum system is also contributing. Because, for instance, in my days at Masitise High School, students were admitted on the basis of performance. That's why we had people from Seru, we had people from Kacha, we had people from all different areas. You'd be accepted there on the basis of your performance at primary school level. But with the current curriculum system, Masitise High School is serving the community of Kuting around there. So its source of students is coming from the primary schools that are around, and education doesn't start somewhere up there, it starts at the basis. So if the feeding system to Masitise High School is not proper, then it's going to be difficult for the teachers there to have students that will perform well. So it appears as if to address the issue of performance of students is way beyond Masitise High School. Mm-hmm. It's something that has to start right there at the basis, at the roots. Because I remember she gave me 3 samples of written work from students that were probably, I think, in Form 1. And really, none of them could construct even a simple sentence. So you can imagine if someone is leaving primary and going to high school and is not even able to construct a sentence, how difficult it is going to be for the teachers to manage just people. So I don't know if Ndate MacDonald was still at Masitise High School when this new system was being introduced, and if he's aware of any impact it had on the whole curriculum system of Lesotho. But from the performance of students, I think that the problem goes way back to the primary schools, the level of education that are being given there. So it's quite much broader, and I think it might not only involve Masitise High School. I would like to have a response from Ndate MacDonald on that. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Let me say, we, the principals, were aware that a new curriculum was being discussed, because we received circulars, or some of us received circulars, saying, could you release your head of development studies or your head of science or math or whatever for a meeting to discuss the new curriculum? And this would come round every 2 or 3 months. But there was never at any time a meeting with the principals to say, do you agree that a new curriculum is needed? In other words, it was introduced over the heads of the principals without any consultation whatever. And it was devised by, I suppose, the people in the Curriculum Development Department, NCDC, possibly school inspectors. Now, George Bernard Shaw, who is a famous author, etc., in England, made a preposterous, insulting remark against our own profession. He said, he who can does, he who cannot teaches. And the corollary to that is that he who can't teach becomes an inspector of schools or a developer of curriculum. In other words, this whole new curriculum was proposed without any consultation with the principals. It was proposed by curriculum developers who felt that if we don't develop a new curriculum, perhaps somebody may say, what are you there for? Our jobs may be at risk. In 2019, you'll remember the teachers went on strike in the whole country. And yes, it was about principal salaries and things of that kind, but it was also about the curriculum. The secondary school teachers said, the curriculum has passed through the primary schools now. We are being expected to teach this curriculum, yet we have not been told what it is. Now, this affects the whole country. It's not just Masitise. But if you say that students are now unable to construct a sentence in English, it doesn't surprise me. I have various other problems. They have messed up the whole division of subjects. They call them learning areas now, not subjects. And I believe home economics is now part of science. I don't know if it's true, but this is what I've been told. So how is a teacher to teach that if he can't cook? I believe agriculture is part of science. If that is the case, how does a teacher teach when he has been brought up in the middle of town and he doesn't know a cabbage from a carrot? It seems to me that the whole thing is a complete mess. I have been told that the Prince Mahato Award scheme is meant to be integrated into the new curriculum. And because, as I mentioned earlier, I am looking after the Prince Mahato Award scheme in this country, by looking after, I'm chairman of the board of trustees. I'm very interested in this because it's the way of getting more money from the ministry to support the scheme. But it's going to need a lot of money in the ministry, and I'm quite sure they don't have it. So once again, I think we're going down a black hole. I do not have optimistic outlook for the whole country. I'm sorry, but it's not Masitise's doing. It's the government.
Thank you, Nada MacDonald.
This is so much in detail and is kind of, you know, poking something from our minds, I think, or everyone in here, because this come to say why the quality of education is declining, you know, not only at Masitise. I think this goes across most schools who are actually challenged or maybe affected by this curriculum, which you have just mentioned, and the Democrat is actually saying right now. And, you know, my question is, if this is the case, there is this curriculum or maybe a board of curriculum members who are coming up with suggestions like those ones, which actually affect the quality of education negatively. Is there, I'm asking the Dekosi and the Democrat here, is there any council for teachers, especially the head teachers council, you know, in Lesotho? I think in this, or there's a council of teachers.
Right. I can answer that. It's called the Lesotho School Principals Association.
Right.
I was secretary of it from 1999 until 2010 when I retired.
Okay.
So that's why I speak with authority on that. I've been involved all along. Yes, LESPA is there. I think they were complaining about the curriculum. They were also complaining about principal salaries and this kind of thing. The information I get now from a number of ex-colleagues is that they've got very much more trade unionistic. Now they're only interested in principal salaries and things of that kind. Okay, I had that problem when I was Secretary of LESPA. I knew that if principal salaries were on the agenda, then they would talk and talk and talk, and there'd be no time for talking about the Education Act or other things that were important. So I always put principal salaries right at the end, last item on the agenda. Most principals usually stayed. Some who had got to go to Mkotlong or somewhere sometimes walked out early. But obviously, they have given in to pressure. Principals were always saying, you know, can't we discuss principal salaries first? This is the item we really want to discuss. And most of the time, I managed to put it off. Only once they raised a motion from the floor of the House, you know, approval of the agenda. They demanded that headmasters' salaries come to the beginning of the agenda.
Thank you for saying more again that day, McDonald, on that, because it's actually a big deal. Because if you actually come up with this, the day McDonald, that there is this curriculum being said by the board, and then it's a proven thing, it's a proven fact. You can see this evident that the quality is going down. And I was wondering if maybe that council of teachers that you mentioned, the McDonald, what sort of powers did you have, you know, during that time, or what's the powers that I think the council is still executing now? What powers do you have maybe to challenge the curriculum board, you know?
Well, during the time I was a principal, that went right up to 2010. We were only told that a new curriculum was expected to come in. We weren't told anything about what it was. We couldn't really challenge it because we didn't know what it was. Right. I believe even up to 2019, they hadn't produced syllabuses, they hadn't had workshops for teachers to explain all this.
Okay.
It's a total mess.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be much debate, you know, on this, but thank you for clarifying this. And I can see, or I can, you know, it makes sense that it was kind of a dictatorship. You know, you were bound to obey what you were being told. You couldn't challenge that, even if you wanted to challenge, like you said, you have some, you even mentioned the strike and all that. But it's clear that there is no that force which you, the board or the council can have to challenge that curriculum, or the board, you know, because if now looking
let me interrupt here.
Thank you. Okay, right.
The school board cannot challenge the curriculum, not in any way. It's nothing whatever to do with them.
Okay. But what do you do? Is the school board, the school council, this council of the teachers, you know, I just want to know your powers, you know, your obligations. If you are seeing as a teacher that the quality is declining, what will you do? You're just looking at it and then.
Let me answer this from the terms of the 2010 Education Act. Now, there may have been an amendment or a new Education Act brought in since. I may be out of date. But according to the 20 Education Act, if a school registers as a public school that is supported by the government, it has to accept the curriculum laid down by the government, and it has to accept the fee structure laid down by the government. The only way in which Masitise School Board, or perhaps rather the church. No, it's not the board, it's the proprietor, LEC Church. The only way in which the LEC Church could take Masitise out of this curriculum is by registering it as a private school in which the parents would have to pay all the teachers' salaries. Now, there are some very successful private schools in Maseru Private Academy, for example, Nachabeng. There are quite a number of them, but they are all for wealthy parents. Oh, yes. What's it called? Laribi English Medium, that's another one. These are the sort of schools that can set their own curriculums. They pay their own teachers, but unless the parents can afford to pay that sort of money, it's a non-starter.
That's much clearly said in the day goes see, and the McDonald, you have just said this, you touched up into detail, and now I think everybody here, and even those who are going to listen from the video here, will just get to understand this. But I still think something has to be done, like maybe this panel here and the whole group that we have, to kind of, because we are wanting to help Masitise, and if you want to help Masitise, it's a clear point that okay, something has to be done from our side about maybe shaking up the quality of education. How? We have to think about that in the background going forward to the next meeting. And two, about this, our mission of maybe refurbishment and all this development. And this is onto our hands. And I think the McDonald having you, it's a treasure, to be honest. I can say this again, because you have got wealth of information which can help us go forward, experience and everything else. And thank you so much. Let me just rush up to the Demasutama is still here. The Demasutama, please, with some few remarks here. You're welcome on the platform to say.
You also raised the hand, but I think you should
sorry. The question.
That's fine.
The was okay, just catch up that finish, please. Yeah. You saying something again?
I was saying that no, Ndatema Sopa can continue. Let's try to be brief. Of time.
Finish off first. The also will come after. Please finish off here, because this is very important. Yeah.
No, thank you, Nade. No. What I was going to say was let's take that as an assignment and think about it and look into it. Then we can discuss it in the future. Because for me, it appears as if the problem is right at the foundation of the education, which is at the primary level school. So if we want to improve the performance at Masitise High School, it means we have to look at the kind of education that is being given to the primary schools around the district of Masitise that is feeding into Masitise. That's where we have to start going forward. So can I leave it at that? Thank you, Nat.
Point taken. Thank you so much. I much appreciate the Thank you so much, Nat. And the demonstration, could you please maybe come forward and say your remarks? You already know the point that have been discussed, and I'm sure you are much active into all this. Please, can you come forward and say a bit of your opinions or views on this, please? You are muted.
I'm unmuted. Can you
yeah, you're right. Okay, that's you now. That's you now. Thank you.
All right, yeah. I'm a linear person. I'm very systematic in terms of listening and I think what I suggest now from you, from Program Director, you need to develop an agenda so that you can give us a map in terms of preparing ourselves, what we're going to discuss via the meetings, and also we're going to limit this meeting into more contained and more specific. In that sense, it will be more fruitful, as the and then the other part, that is the first one. I think on that one, I can also able to assist on that one before you go for the meeting. Let's make an agenda, and then let's build a date or a road for our discussion. The second part that I have I suggest, because this is the third meeting that we have, and then the only things that I actually out of this meeting that I'm getting, it is the structure of the school, academic, performance, and fundraising. Those are the three major things that actually, but according to what all that I collected in all times that we have. I suggest from now, we should have the volunteers who are going to be more onto academic, more into the structure and fundraising like CDC, so that in the meeting, when we come to, we report onto that, because we can't have people saying that Mohammed was saying something, but you never said, tell us anything. That you told us about Mohammed's meeting that we had. And then we'll come to on that one. I think that one is the first part. Second part that we need to actually to come up with the people that we can volunteer. Like Lerato says that he's ready to do something. Lerato must tell us what he's ready to do, so that there's a base that we start on. And in terms of academic and the people who was just mentioning here, what I can even the people that are going to be in academic, because it's clear that the route is from the primary intake. So we should understand what is the requirement of the school to take the children. It is, for the local story before it was merit-based, but now it is a location-based. So those children that are coming from regular primary, maybe they cannot be able to construct English. And then I think in that, when Masitise said the pool of the children that they choose, like I remember when I was doing my first year, because I went to Natal, they had the problem, they call it, it's more like testings. So where, but that one is whole year. Then they just introduced us into the high mathematics and physical science and so on. So I think maybe in this case where there's this curriculum that I cannot change. So those children from bottom, they should have a bit of a refresher for them so that they can come to the mainstream of high school. Is one of my suggestions that and of the teacher was saying that maybe we need some audit from Masitise. I don't think that is our call. What we need, it is this thing that we're talking about. We want to build a structure to come and help them in terms of academic. But I know that as we are more territorial. We don't want people to invade in our state. The demos that you won't even actually be happy about that, because now we are starting to get to come to this city or to have a meeting with one of our places, which is a bit hard. And on that one, on top of that one, because maybe people who are very territorial, as I was saying before, in that they cause equality to the demo side. Maybe they can have a better language in terms of coming. Maybe that we can just say that we have a meeting the demo side because you're not at least you're on the same class. So for Daniela, he doesn't know him as a student. Sometimes he does that. So I think that helps, because I know that how we are as Basot. So we need to work with that, because what we need a good soil and we need good environment, so that we don't have that hostility between the sections. I'm not interested in the factions, but we want to say that if the school say yes, we welcome you to work with us. That is what we want from the democracy. Because if we can't get that, all what we are doing is going to be for us. We're not going to go anywhere in getting that. What you are saying about supporting one of our people, I think that is a good idea, but for that, this meeting is just going to distract us. It's a good idea, it's very noble, but I think it's going to distract us from the cause that we are in regarding this meeting. I think in that, that's my input.
Valuable as always, Nademo Shosho. Thank you so much, because we are building each other here. You started small and you are getting bigger, in terms of suggestion, in terms of maybe getting to know the facts and how we can shape our points going forward. And I really appreciate everyone. I think everybody's appreciating our input here. And thank you so much for this again, and even to kind of take out, things which we are being brought into our discussion, which may, divert us somehow. We need to be specific, and suggestions taken, noted. I like this issue because this is being recorded. We're going to take this going forward, and I can guarantee from now onwards, the Demasuba, what you are suggesting right now, anytime when we are going to have the meetings, we'll have throw the agenda, that agenda will be thrown into our groups, and everybody can have the input on the agenda, and then we can agree on that, okay? So that when we come to the meeting, everybody will know what we want to talk about, and everybody is prepared, and knowing that will be what in line with what we are wanting, not going to what around the bush. Thank you so much for input again, and hopefully this is going to give us another structure going forward, because we're still building each other here. Thank you so much. And on this regard, I think any other point that want to be raised by anyone here, and the McDonald's in that day.
I have a suggestion, Chotang, like Masupa raised one very important suggestion, or gave us a suggestion that approaching Mr. Monareng, being there, that Kosi could he could organize an informal meeting, a friendly gathering of any sort. I don't know how, and he will do it and when he will do it. And that could start, our meeting could start in that way, and meeting Mr. Monareng and having friendly talk, and slowly bring him back to, and being in USA or in the United Kingdom, you send him an email. I don't think it's just going to work, right? And if someone can meet him face to face, someone as close as Mr. Kosi might work. And I want to second that idea, what that Masupa said. Right?
That's a big point. That's a big point that they have, and as always.
And I don't want to keep and that Mr. McDonald here for so long.
Yeah, he has been here for us. Yeah, and before we close, I think if maybe that's the only last point or comment from our point, just to touch upon one thing here, before we close with a prayer. I had a communication with him that day didn't have peace. Of course, he was excused. He just asked me to say he won't be able to come to the meeting anyway. So, in regard to this contribution that we are still making from members, he was suggesting if maybe it could be possible for that money, which is now up to 50,000 or more than 50,000, if the portion of it can be used, maybe to start with like phases that this is what I've already mentioned, phase 1, we do Windows classes or whatever, the money that, let's say 30,000, depending on the budget, I don't know how material, I think material is very expensive anyway, but say we use 30,000 and we still keep 20,000, and then after 20,000, we start something like a kind of a business. You are even saying like a supermarket, the mini market, so that we can keep on generating money on the ongoing point, because we know that the funding of this project, we need a continuous supply of money. It has to be a continuous supply of money. So we are suggesting something like that. That okay, if you have a mini market where we would have some profits being built up, and that profit can be used to be source of maintenance or source of maybe the funds at the school. And I think the question that I asked him would be, it would need some people who actually would be paid to do that job anyway, but it's something that we have to look at the background before going forward. But I'm just mentioning this at this meeting. And two, I think that it's Isolo Basa, as I spoke to him a lot of time as well, and he stamped up that, and he kind of suggested a tuck shop. I'm sure every one of us, or maybe most of you the tuck shop, these things which are built, the shops that are in the campus of the whatever, the schools or whatever, the colleges. So the rest of us was like, okay, fine, this is a good idea. And maybe a tuck shop at Masitise High School, which is run by independent bodies, not any teacher, not any student, some people who will be running it, will be paid anyway, So that tuck shop will contain, basic needs for the students. If a student needs a Colgate or polish or whatever, a roll-on, you just go to the tech shop and buy it from there. That will stop students from going outside and every time going for, any time for shopping. And that is going to contain the money. It's something like that, something that is so.
Yes. I'm also suggesting, don't forget exercise books, pens, stationery. Students need to buy that. It's not part of their fees, and it's not meant to be supplied by the school.
Right. You see, now it's building up. It's getting momentum. Yeah, so we'll talk about that in the background before we come to the formal meeting like this one. The tech shop, it will be run by independent members that will be electing or selecting. They will be paid, so we can trace, the expenditures, the income, we can clearly trace that. And the McDonald's, thank you for that again. So it's actually was meant to be having all the important material that the students will be needing all the time. But in point of school stationery and all that, what about the school shop? Is the school shop still there at Masitise? What is called book school? Not school shop. Bookshop, I mean. Is the bookshop still available at Masitise? Because I don't think you can run that in contrary with the bookshop. Is the bookshop still available at the McDonald, if you know, at Masitise?
As far as the information I've been able to collect is there is still a bookshop. I believe Ndati Shakani's wife is in charge of it. But what it sells, I don't know. It may be only textbooks, or it may be stationery, pens, this kind of thing. Let me just mention at Metsoalle too, we ran a tuck shop. It was looked after by a teacher who I think was strictly honest, because it returned an overall profit of about 15,000 every year. And that was selling exercise books, pens, stationery, also cans of Coke, anything of that nature that students would want to buy. Exactly. Obviously no beer. Students would have really gone for that, but no, we didn't allow that. But soft drinks, stationery, pens, exercise books, 15,000 a year.
That's important, of course. Yeah, we'll be talking about this in the background, of course. We have to have an extensive discussion on this, because I think that's the only way we would have a steady supply of cash, because we need a flow of cash. It has to be steady in order to be helping Masitise. Because if now we have 50,000 and we take all of it to buy material, it will be like our project is finished, you know. But if you still have some money still being generated, then everyone will still be feeling part of the continuous process or project. And thank you for all the input. If anyone want to say last, but there was okay. Yeah, you are sorry. Okay, thank you. There was.
Close the meeting. I think we really took a long time.
That's very true. That's very true. Yes. That's very true here. And thank you so much. And any volunteer to come up with the closing prayer, and we close this. Let's see all of us. Can you just close up with the prayer, please, and then we look forward to finishing of this. Closing prayer, please.
May the love of God, the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. The meeting is formally adjourned. We'll see each other tomorrow, anytime in the background. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, the McDonald. Thank you. Right.
Thank you.